May 1945, Coburg, Germany. 8-year-old Ingrid Weber watches from her apartment window as American soldiers enter her town. Her mother pulls her back from the glass, warning her to stay inside. The war is over. Germany has lost. Now come the occupiers. Ingrid has been taught what to expect. At school, her teachers showed pictures of American soldiers, particularly the black ones. The images depicted them as ape-like, savage, dangerous. "They will destroy everything German," her teacher said. "They are subhuman creatures the Americans use as weapons against civilization." The propaganda films were worse. Ingrid watched newsreels showing black American soldiers as criminals and monsters. The narrator warned that these soldiers would rape German women, murder German men, and burn German cities. "This is what defeats means," the films said. "Occupation by inferior races." Now those soldiers are here. Ingrid peers through the curtain, terrified and curious. She sees American soldiers moving through the street below. Some are white, some are black. They're not burning buildings or attacking civilians. They're setting up checkpoints, posting guards, organizing. They look like soldiers, not monsters. One black soldier notices her watching from the window. He's young, maybe 20, with kind eyes. He smiles and waves. Ingrid jerks back from the window, heart pounding. The next day, that same soldier is standing near her building when Ingrid ventures outside. Her mother sent her to find food. The family hasn't eaten properly in days. Occupation or not, they need to survive. The soldier approaches. Ingrid freezes, remembering everything she's been taught. He's going to hurt her. He's dangerous. He's subhuman. The soldier reaches into his pocket. Ingrid's breath catches. He pulls out a chocolate bar, a Hershey bar, though Ingrid doesn't recognize the brand. He holds it out to her, still smiling. "For you," he says in broken German. "Don't be afraid." Ingrid stares at the chocolate. She hasn't seen real chocolate in 2 years. It looks impossibly rich, impossibly wonderful. She looks at the soldier's face, not monster, not savage, just a young man offering chocolate to a hungry child. She takes it. She whispers, "Danke," thank you. The soldier nods and walks away. Ingrid runs home with the chocolate, her mind reeling. Everything she's been taught is wrong. The subhuman monsters are giving food to German children. The savages are being kind. This moment is repeated across Germany in 1945. Black American soldiers meeting German civilians who've been conditioned to fear them, and destroying that propaganda through simple human decency. If you want military history about how propaganda collapses when confronted with reality, subscribe right now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. The German children who met black GIs in 1945 grew up to reject their parents' racism. Nazi Germany spent 12 years conditioning its population to view black people as racially inferior. This wasn't new propaganda. European racism against black people existed long before the Nazis. But the Nazis systematized it, made it state policy, incorporated it into education, and used modern media to spread it efficiently. German children in the 1930s and 1940s learned racial hierarchy as scientific fact. School textbooks included racial classifications, placing Germans at the top and black Africans at the bottom. Teachers used diagrams showing skull measurements and facial features to prove racial differences in intelligence and capability. The propaganda depicted black people as naturally violent, intellectually inferior, sexually deviant, and culturally primitive. These stereotypes appeared in every medium: textbooks, newspapers, radio broadcasts, newsreels, even children's books. When America entered World War II in 1941, Nazi propagandists adapted these existing stereotypes to military purposes. They began depicting black American soldiers specifically as threats to German civilians. Propaganda posters showed black soldiers with exaggerated features, thick lips, wide noses, dark skin rendered as pitch black, threatening German women and children. The text warned, "This is what American liberation brings: savage Negroes who will destroy German culture." Radio broadcasts from Berlin described black American soldiers as criminals released from prisons to fight Germany. Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister, personally approved scripts describing black troops as rapists and murderers who would rampage through German cities. Newsreels shown in German cinemas included footage of black American soldiers edited and narrated to present them as dangerous. The films showed black soldiers marching, but described them as barely controlled savages, whom white American officers struggled to restrain. This propaganda served multiple purposes. Justify resistance. If occupation by black soldiers means rape and murder, Germans must fight to the death to prevent it. Reinforce racial ideology. Black soldiers' presence in Allied armies proves the Allies are racially inferior and therefore morally wrong. Frighten civilians. Fear of occupation encourages support for total war policies and discourages surrender. Divide enemies. Emphasizing racial issues in America might create internal Allied conflicts. German children absorbed this propaganda throughout their education. They learned it in school, heard it on radio, saw it in newsreels. By 1945, an entire generation of German children believed black American soldiers were subhuman monsters to fear. Then those soldiers arrived, and reality contradicted every element of the propaganda. Black American soldiers entered Germany as occupation forces beginning in March 1945. The 761st Tank Battalion, the 92nd Infantry Division, engineer battalions, quartermaster companies, and other units move through German towns as the Third Reich collapses. They're combat veterans who fought from France through Germany. Now they're occupiers, responsible for maintaining order in defeated enemy territory. German civilians' reactions vary. Some flee before American forces arrive, terrified of what propaganda promised would happen. Others stay, either unable to leave or deciding occupation is preferable to continued war. Those who stay encounter black American soldiers for the first time. What happens next repeatedly contradicts what propaganda predicted. In Coburg, soldiers from the 761st Tank Battalion distribute food rations to hungry civilians. Germany's food distribution system has collapsed. Cities are starving. American occupation forces provide emergency rations to prevent mass starvation. Black soldiers participate in this distribution alongside white soldiers. They hand out bread, canned goods, and chocolate to German civilians, including children taught to fear them as monsters. The children's reactions are recorded in diaries, letters, and post-war interviews. The pattern repeats. Initial terror, then confusion when soldiers act kindly, then reassessment of everything they've been taught. 10-year-old Hans Müller from Bavaria writes in his diary, "The Negro soldiers came today. Mother told me to hide, but I watched from the window. They were giving food to people in the square. One saw me watching and waved. He didn't look like the pictures at school. He looked like a regular soldier." In the Rhineland, a black soldier from an engineer battalion helps an elderly German woman whose house was damaged by artillery. He repairs her roof using salvaged materials, works several hours, refuses any payment. The woman tells her neighbors. They're astonished. The savages are helping German civilians. Black military police enforce occupation rules in German cities. They arrest black marketeers, prevent looting, maintain order. German civilians expected chaos and violence. Instead, they get organized military administration. The disconnect between propaganda and reality forces Germans to reconsider what they've been taught. If the propaganda about black soldiers is false, what else is false? If black Americans are decent people, does that mean Nazi racial ideology is wrong? This is the story of children who learned hate from propaganda, then unlearned it through human contact. If you want military history about how racism collapses through simple human decency, subscribe right now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. These encounters changed a generation's understanding of race. Not every encounter is positive. Some black soldiers, having fought through Europe and witnessed Nazi atrocities, treat German civilians harshly. Some German civilians maintain their racist attitudes despite contradictory evidence. But enough positive encounters occur to create widespread reassessment among Germans, especially children who are more open to changing their beliefs. American soldiers carry chocolate as part of their rations. Hershey bars, small enough to fit in pockets, sweet enough to be treats in a world of deprivation. They give this chocolate to children everywhere they go. It becomes an informal diplomacy tool, a way to break ice with wary civilians, particularly in occupied Germany, where children have been taught to fear them. Black soldiers participate in this chocolate diplomacy extensively. They have extra motivation. They know German children have been taught to fear them specifically. Giving chocolate to frightened kids proves they're not monsters. The impact is profound. German children in 1945 are hungry. Real chocolate has been unavailable for years. When black American soldiers offer chocolate, children face a choice: maintain their taught fear or accept kindness from the enemy. Most choose kindness. A black soldier from the 183rd Engineer Combat Battalion, interviewed in 1983, describes the pattern. Kids would be scared at first. You could see it. They'd been told we were savages. But if you smiled, spoke gently, offered chocolate, they'd come around. Their faces would change. You could see them realizing we weren't what they'd been taught. The chocolate itself becomes symbolic. It's American, representing wealth and abundance Germany lacks. It's a gift, representing generosity toward enemies. It's delicious, representing pleasure in a time of hardship. And when it comes from black soldiers, it contradicts specific propaganda. The subhuman soldiers have access to luxuries Germans lack. The primitive soldiers show sophistication and kindness. The dangerous soldiers give gifts to children. German parents watch these interactions with mixed feelings. Some are grateful. Their children are receiving food they desperately need. Some are conflicted. Accepting help from occupation forces feels like collaboration. Some maintain their prejudices despite evidence. But the children remember. They remember the Black American soldier who gave them chocolate when they were hungry. They remember kindness from people they were taught to hate. These memories shape their understanding of race for the rest of their lives. Decades later, Germans who were children in 1945 describe these encounters in interviews. They speak about the cognitive dissonance, propaganda versus reality, taught hatred versus experienced kindness. Many explicitly credit these encounters with teaching them to question authority and reject racism. They learned young that propaganda lies, that racial stereotypes are false, that humanity transcends racial categories. The U.S. Army maintains strict non-fraternization policies in occupied Germany initially. Soldiers are ordered not to socialize with German civilians beyond necessary official interactions. No eating in German homes, no relationships with German women, no friendly conversations. The policy aims to maintain clear distinction between occupiers and occupied. These rules prove impossible to enforce consistently. Soldiers live among German civilians, work alongside German laborers, interact daily with German officials. Human nature resists rigid separation. Black soldiers face additional complications. The non-fraternization policy theoretically treats all soldiers equally, but practical enforcement is inconsistent. White soldiers who violate fraternization rules often receive informal warnings. Black soldiers who violate the same rules face formal charges. Despite this, fraternization occurs. Soldiers help civilians rebuild homes. They share rations with hungry families. They play with children in the streets. Relationships form, friendships, occasionally romances. Human connections that transcend official policies. German civilians often treat black soldiers with less hostility than they treat white soldiers. This seems counterintuitive given Nazi propaganda, but makes sense contextually. Black soldiers, having faced discrimination in America, often show more empathy toward defeated Germans than white soldiers do. A German woman from Munich, interviewed in 1990, explains, "The white American soldiers treated us like we deserved punishment. They were correct, we did deserve it. But the Negro soldiers treated us like people who were suffering. They had compassion. I think they understood what it meant to be treated as inferior." This dynamic creates uncomfortable ironies. Black American soldiers, serving in a segregated military, occupying a defeated nation that built its ideology on racial supremacy, sometimes show more humanity toward German civilians than white American soldiers do. The Army eventually relaxes non-fraternization rules in 1945 to 46. Soldiers can socialize with Germans under certain conditions. Marriages between soldiers and German women become permissible with command approval. Some black soldiers marry German women and bring them to America. These marriages face tremendous prejudice in the United States. Interracial marriage is illegal in many states, socially unacceptable in most places. Couples often settle in northern cities where laws and attitudes are slightly more tolerant. German children who befriended black American soldiers grow up with different racial attitudes than their parents. They experienced kindness from people Nazi propaganda taught them to hate. This experience creates generational change. Children rejecting their parents' racism based on personal experience that contradicted propaganda. By the 1960s, these children are adults. Some actively support the American civil rights movement from Germany, recognizing parallels to their own experiences with propaganda and reality. Some maintain relationships with Black American soldiers they met in 1945, corresponding across decades. The propaganda collapsed not through counter-propaganda, but through human contact. German children taught to fear Black soldiers met those soldiers and discovered they were just people, capable of kindness, generosity, and compassion. One chocolate bar didn't change Germany's racial attitudes. Thousands of chocolate bars, given to thousands of children by thousands of Black soldiers across hundreds of towns, that created change. Small acts of kindness, repeated consistently, destroyed what 12 years of propaganda built.